Something is quietly happening with this team right now. And if you're paying close enough attention, you might sense a big decision coming. It's not just about one signing, one player, or one position. It's about the direction of the entire roster. There's a mix of experience, emerging talent, and some unexpected stories starting to intertwine. And depending on how things unfold, it could shape the future of this team not just this season, but for years to come. But before I tell you the details, click the like button so you don't miss any updates. Let's go! Something unexpected happened with the San Francisco 49ers, and it could completely change how this offseason is being viewed. While most fans were focused on the traditional free agency moves, a completely different stage, a flag football event, quietly reignited one of the most intriguing debates within the Niners community. And yes, it involves a name that still carries significant weight in the league: Odell Beckham Jr. Over the weekend, at the Fanatics Flag Football Classic, something caught the attention of NFL insiders. Kyle Shanahan himself was there, actively training, not watching from afar, not just casually glancing, training. And right next to him during the sessions, Saquon Barkley, Kyle Juszczyk, and Odell Beckham Jr. That alone should make you stop and think. Because when Shanahan spends real time with a player, especially a veteran wide receiver, it's never insignificant. And then the games began. To be clear, flag football is not the NFL. Speed, physical contact, game reading, a completely different world. But even in that environment, some things apply. Hands, route instinct, body control, and OBJ? He showed all of that, several standout plays, catches worthy of highlight reels, including a one-handed catch that reminds everyone exactly who he used to be, and perhaps still is, to some extent. And here's where things get even more interesting. After the event, reports surfaced that Odell Beckham Jr. sparked renewed interest from NFL teams after that performance. It's not speculation, it's real interest. He is believed to still intend to play in 2026. Now, stop and think about the moment. The 49ers have already made changes at the wide receiver position. They signed Mike Evans. They added Christian Kirk. Both veterans, both short-term solutions. And that says something very important about how this front office and Shanahan are thinking. They trust experience. Historically, Shanahan has demonstrated a clear pattern. He prefers veteran receivers. Not because young players lack talent, but because, in his system, precision is everything. One marking error, one wrong route, one incomplete pass, and you lose confidence quickly. We've seen this before. Brandon Ayuk had to earn his trust through hard work. Jordan Watkins went through it. Even Kendrick Bourne, familiar with the system, made small mistakes that provoked strong reactions from Shanahan. That's the reality of this offense. Now compare that to Odell Beckham Jr., the veteran. Years of experience. Proven production early in his career. A player who understands offensive structures at a high level. On paper, he fits the profile Shanahan prefers. But here's the other side of the coin, and it can't be ignored. OBJ isn't the same player physically. Injuries have taken their toll. He'll be 34 during the season. He didn't play anything in 2025, and last season, the 49ers offense was already the oldest in the NFL. Adding him would increase that number even further. And when you look at his recent production, the last truly significant period was in 2023 with Baltimore. 35 receptions, 565 yards, and 3 touchdowns in 14 games. Solid, but far from dominant. So now the 49ers are at a crossroads. Do they continue accumulating veteran receivers to ensure short-term reliability? Or do they finally invest heavily in a young wide receiver from a promising draft class, someone who can grow alongside Brock Purdy as his contract begins to impact the salary cap more significantly? Because that's the main point here. It's not just about OBJ, it's about direction. The question is whether this team is building a team for immediate stability or for long-term development at the position. And while all this is happening, another discrete move occurred today that could impact the offense more than people imagine. Brian Robinson, who was acquired through a trade and served as Christian McCaffrey's backup, left. He signed a one-year contract with the Atlanta Falcons. This leaves a gap, and filling that gap is Jordan James, a fifth-round pick last year, who, internally, the 49ers have high expectations for. This is where things start to get really interesting, because James barely saw the field at the beginning of the season. Injuries during training camp delayed his development. Learning the system took time, but when he finally got an opportunity, especially in that divisional round against Seattle, he showed something. Physical, balance, control. He's not the strongest running back, but he runs with a lot of power. Contact doesn't bring him down easily. And one detail that matters a lot in Shanahan's system: he didn't commit any. He's in his final season and approaching 30. That workload isn't sustainable forever. And if Jordan James is ready to take on a bigger role, this offense could become more balanced than people expect. But we're not done yet, because there's one more name that deserves your attention. And, honestly, deserves far more respect than it's getting. Deommodore Lenoir. Over the past 2 years, he's become one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the NFL. And the numbers prove it in a way that's hard to ignore. From 2022 to 2024, only 2 touchdowns allowed in coverage. 2. That's elite. And when you analyze his matchups, especially against high-level receivers like Jackson Smith-Njigba, it becomes even more impressive. Game after game, he limits production, closes the space, maintains discipline, ensuring consistency in a position where mistakes are instantly amplified. And yet, he's not getting enough attention. Not compared to the expectations surrounding other players, not compared to the contracts offered across the league, which raises an important question about perception versus reality. Are the 49ers holding on to one of the league's most valuable defensive players without the spotlight yet reaching him? Because, if you look closely, the answer might already be clear. Now I want to know your opinion. Should the 49ers seriously consider signing Odell Beckham Jr.? Or is it time to fully commit to developing younger receivers? Leave your opinion in the comments right now. OBJ or no OBJ? And this is where everything starts to connect in a way that most fans may not fully realize yet. Because while the spotlight swings between Odell Beckham Jr., the running back rotation, and the roster changes during the offseason, there's a deeper layer to what the 49ers are building right now. Let's go back to Deommodore Lenoir for a second. Because when you really analyze what he's been doing, not superficially, but seriously, you start to realize something almost shocking. This isn't just a solid cornerback. This isn't just a reliable piece. This is a player performing at an elite level, without the elite recognition. Think about the context. The Seattle Seahawks just gave Jackson Smith-Njigba a contract worth over $42 million a year, making him the highest-paid wide receiver in NFL history. That's not just a great deal. That redefines the market. And yet, when Lenoir lines up against him, he's not being massacred. He's not being exposed. He's being controlled. We're talking about multiple matchups throughout 2023, 2024, and even the playoffs, and the consistency is undeniable. Few yards allowed, passes deflected, no touchdowns in most of those games. Even in high-pressure moments, Like in the divisional round, he allowed only one reception for 4 yards. That's defensive behavior. And yet, the narrative in the league isn't keeping up. Meanwhile, the 49ers secured him for around $18 to $19 million a year, which, when compared to recent contracts like Alontae Taylor's, who receives $20 million annually, is starting to look like one of the smartest contracts this front office has made in recent years. So, while fans debate whether to bring in OBJ, there's already elite talent on this roster that deserves more attention. And that's what makes this whole offseason so fascinating. Because it's not just about who the 49ers can sign, it's about recognizing what they already have, and how those pieces fit into a team that clearly seeks to balance satisfaction with sustainability. Now, let's put it all together. We have the possibility of a veteran, Odell Beckham Jr., who still demonstrates great athleticism and could bring experience to a group of receivers that currently relies heavily on short-term contracts. We have a young running back, Jordan James, taking on a bigger role, with real confidence within the organization and a skill set that fits perfectly into Shanahan's system. We have Christian McCaffrey, still an elite player, but coming off a huge workload and approaching an age where managing plays becomes crucial. And on defense, we have a player like Deommodore Lenoir, who quietly shuts down the best receivers, even though he receives a significantly lower salary than the biggest names in the league at his position. This is not a team in transition. This is a team that makes calculated decisions. Every move, or even every rumor, is tied to a larger philosophy, maintaining competitiveness now, but avoiding decline in the long term. And that's why the discussion about OBJ is so controversial. Because, on one hand, the logic is understandable. Veteran presence, familiarity with the game at a high level. A coach like Kyle Shanahan, who clearly values experience and accuracy. And now, the recent exposure working directly together, which always matters more than people imagine. But, on the other hand, you run the risk of aging the team. You run the risk of limiting opportunities for the development of younger talent. And you potentially delay the formation of the next core of receivers that will grow with Brock Purdy in the coming years. So, what's the right decision? That depends on what you believe this team needs most right now: stability or evolution. Because the 49ers, whether fans realize it or not, are walking a fine line between those two paths. And every decision going forward, especially at the wide receiver position, will shape not only the 2026 season, but the identity of this offense for years to come. Now, I want to know your opinion, Niners fan. If you were in that front office chair right now, what would you do? Would you bring back Odell Beckham Jr. for another season and rely on the veteran's experience? Or would you draft a young wide receiver early in the draft and build the future alongside Brock Purdy? Leave your answer in the comments, like if you're rooting for them, and subscribe to stay up to date on everything happening with the San Francisco 49ers. Because this off-season is far from over.